Hi everyone, I'm Philip, a Brazilian engineer living in the south of China, and I don't know how, but China is dividing the United States.
China is trying to divide the US and Europe on Ukraine. Meanwhile, Donald Trump is making an offer India could find hard to refuse. And is the US changing its Taiwan policy? Then more on this week's China News Headlines. Welcome to China Uncensored. I'm Chris Chappell. This episode is sponsored by Surfshark. Whenever you go online, you really ought to be using a VPN like
Doesn't work in China.
Surfshark to cover your tracks.
Oh, by the way, it's not against the law to use a VPN in China. I am using a VPN here. I'm in China. Actually, I have two VPNs. You can find VPNs on the Apple Store. It's not illegal. No one get arrested for using VPNs.
Protect your identity. I'll tell you more in a bit. And just a reminder to join Operation Honeypot by watching this episode to the end and leaving a like and a Honeypot comment below.
Because somehow he has 2 million subscribers and he's always complaining that YouTube is not showing his videos to other people. I don't know.
U.S. President Donald Trump is making a lot of folks angry.
Yeah.
The good news is, if you make enough people angry, you're bound to at least make some of the right people angry. Because a change to the State Department's website regarding Taiwan has sparked a fiery rebuke from Beijing. Previously on the State Department's U.S. relations with Taiwan fact sheet, it said, "We do not support Taiwan independence."
Yep, that's the United States policy since the 70s.
That line has been removed. Does that mean the U.S. now supports Taiwan independence?
Nope.
Who knows? Certainly not Beijing. At a regular press conference on Monday, Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson Guo Jiakun urged the U.S. to immediately correct its mistakes or risk further damage to Sino-U.S. relations, and said the U.S. should act with the utmost caution. Yes, I'm sure King Donald Trump is worried about potentially upsetting people with wild things posted to a website. In response, the state...
Right? But it's funny that, for example, this guy, he talks a lot about China, even though he doesn't live here. So he's totally biased through Western media. Trump did that. He posted a photo of himself as a king in the White House Instagram account. And that's what he has to say about it. You would never see Xi Jinping doing that. But somehow, for him, Xi Jinping is worse than Trump.
The State Department claimed that the update to the website is routine and pointed out that the U.S. One China policy is still mentioned there.
Yeah, of course.
The spokesperson for the department has clarified that it doesn't support any unilateral changes to the status quo from any side, which also now appears on the fact sheet. Okay. This isn't the first time this has happened. In fact, that line was also cut back in 2022, although it was added back a month later. Will this change hang around this time? Only time will tell. But Taiwan is considering a multi-billion-dollar arms purchase from the U.S. The talks are ongoing, but 3 sources said on Monday that the package would include coastal defense cruise missiles and HIMARS, with one source saying, "I would be very surprised if it was less than $8 billion, somewhere between $7 billion to $10 billion. The U.S. might want to send Guo Jiakun possible U.S. weapons. The package is intended to demonstrate the U.S.'s commitment to defending the island, especially after National Security Advisor Mike Waltz said he wished to speed up arms deliveries to Taipei.
I think China should start to have some discussions with the separatist movements in Puerto Rico, Guam, Hawaii, because all those places, they are colonies of the United States. The United States invaded those places when they won a war against Spain 100 something years ago. They also colonized the Philippines. Philippines is like 2 hours away from where I'm living, but the Filipino people, they found a way to kick the ass of the Americans from there. I think China should do that. Start to discuss, have some discussions, like diplomatic visits to the separatist movements of those places, and then maybe offer to sell some weapons to them. And let's see how the US will react. Right? Because if the United States says, oh, Taiwan is part of China, and at the same time they are selling weapons to Taiwan to defend against China, I think China can do the same.
HIMARS in particular has proven to be effective in Ukraine against Russian forces, and Taiwan, like the CCP, has closely been observing that war to see what works and what doesn't. But Taiwan isn't the only Asian country looking for U.S. weapons to defend against China. President Trump and Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi are discussing a trade route through Israel, along with a boost in arms sales to India. So I guess Trump should maybe send Guo 2 edible arrangements. The proposed trade route would run from India through the UAE, Saudi Arabia, Jordan, and Israel to Europe, basically circumventing the CCP's Belt and Road Initiative. This plan builds on one initiated by former President Biden in 2023. In addition, Modi and Trump discussed an expansion of U.S. military sales to India starting in 2025.
It's interesting that we didn't see those China haters talking about Trump and Zelensky fight. Interesting.
India wants to modernize its military, and since 2008, the country has agreed to buy more than $20 billion in U.S. weapons.
Yeah, but this is not necessarily because of China. It's because they are not a colony anymore, and they are growing, their economy is growing, so they just want to get more powerful. Not necessarily because of China, because actually China is not invading anyone since the 70s. The last time China tried to invade someone was, I think, 1978. They tried to invade Vietnam, and didn't work. Like the United States did, it also didn't work, and that's it. So China is not really threatening to invade anyone. That's just insane. And the other way, we have United States is literally invading countries. Right now, there's United States troops in Syria to support the United States oil companies to steal oil from Syria. And somehow this is okay for this guy.
But these talks would expand on that. Trump also said that the U.S. would eventually provide India with F-35 stealth fighter jets, although he didn't exactly say when. Looks like BRICS might have some upcoming trouble with internal cohesion and partnership. But Trump has even more to offer India, like mediation to ease India-China tension. In 2020, Trump offered his help in mediating India's border disputes with China.
But China and India already solved that. They don't need Trump anymore. They already fixed that. I think was last year. Was last January or maybe last year. I'm not sure. But they already fixed this situation. They don't need Trump anymore.
And during his joint press briefing with Modi, Trump restated the offer.
I look at India, I do see the skirmishes on the border, which are quite vicious, and I guess they continue to go on.
No, they don't. They don't. Trump is just outdated. He's old as well.
If I could be of help, I'd love to help because that should be stopped. That's been going on for a long time.
Why is Trump so confident he'd be...
By the way, all these skirmishes on the China-India border is because of a small piece of land that the British messed up when they draw the borders. So the British, they made all the trouble here, then they left in the 49 when they left India, and that's it. Now China and India try to solve this issue.
He'd be a good mediator. I mean, what does he know about the art of the deal? Modi...
I don't know, he bankrupted like how many companies already?
He himself didn't react to the offer, but the Indian Foreign Secretary, in a later press briefing, rejected the offer. He said the issue was a bilateral one between Beijing and New Delhi. It's a shame. I think Trump could have gotten a golden toilet thrown
Even the Indians don't want support from Trump
into the deal. China is set to build its first deep water station under the sea. Yes, under the sea, that's as much as I can do before Disney hits us with a copyright claim. The facility is expected to become operational by 2030 and will be housed in the South China Sea, which I'm sure has nothing to do with cementing the CCP's illegal claims to the area. This would be like me building a...
But why you say it's illegal? Based on what? United States, for example, is not... They're not signatory of this kind of international water laws. So what are you talking about?
Treehouse on my neighbor's property and yelling, "Get off my lawn, invader!" The station will focus...
That's what everyone does when the United States invade their countries.
...on researching the deep sea and exploration for methane hydrates and other energy resources. No doubt they'll share the information with other countries in the region.
Normally they do, right? They're not like the United States. Normally they share information.
This facility is meant to make China look like a major scientific power when it comes to deep sea research, particularly compared to the US and Russia. Because while artificial intelligence can help with this facility, it's also meant to sustain teams of scientists for several weeks. Fortunately, the scientists already have lots of experience being locked in claustrophobic conditions for weeks on end. And after the break...
Yeah, I was locked in Shanghai, and I'm here. So the main thing about all the lockdowns in China, I was here during COVID-19. The main thing is we don't know anyone in China who died from COVID. Anyone. No one. There's no one. We don't know, oh, my friend knows someone, if someone from my friend's family. This doesn't happen in China because of the lockdowns. Not just the lockdowns, but the massive vaccines campaigns, and they were able to take care of everyone. So we don't know anyone who died from COVID.
Break. Just what is China's position on Ukraine? Welcome back.
Welcome back.
China is sending mixed signals regarding the war in Ukraine. In the past, China has offered to be a mediator in the conflict. And
Zelensky today is March 3rd. Zelensky today, he's against ceasefire. So who cares about what China says? The guy is the president of Ukraine and say, I don't want a ceasefire, after he was humiliated by Trump in the White House. So China really is not the problem here, right? It's Russia, Ukraine, and the United States.
And last week,
why you don't talk about Trump humiliating Zelensky? Why you are bringing China to this war?
according to anonymous sources cited by the Wall Street Journal,
Oh, anonymous,
they made the
anonymous sources. Of course, there's no name, right?
offer again, trying to play the role of peacemaker in Ukraine. The Wall Street Journal reports that part of the proposal involves Beijing acting as a guarantor by sending peacekeeping troops to the region. The White House didn't say if they had received such an offer, but rejected it out of hand, possibly because any mediation done by China would completely exclude Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky.
It's so funny. The funny thing about those guys, those China haters, is they don't really deal with the reality, right? The real life. Because the United States did a meeting with Russia in Saudi Arabia without Ukraine. So when Ukraine asked, okay, why we are not invited for this meeting, the United States said, only adults at the table. We don't want children here. That was the answer. That was the official answer. And now he's saying China will sideline Ukraine when the United States is literally doing that? Such a joke.
Although some say Trump is kind of doing that already. And Europe also expressed skepticism, citing China's aid to Russia during the war. China's desire to get involved in Ukraine might have something to do with the country's mineral wealth.
China desire, where do you see China desire? I mean,
according to the national interest, the combination of Russia's military presence in Ukraine and China's economic might give China, Russia, and North Korea a
why they're adding North Korea to this? Jesus Christ. So
window
funny.
of opportunity to exploit the minerals with far-reaching implications for global security and global power dynamics. And anyone who has a problem with it, Russia's going to toss them right out that window of opportunity. So last week, China said it wants to be involved in the peace negotiations. But then, earlier this week, Beijing responded to a U.S. proposal for Chinese peacekeepers in Ukraine with the resounding no comment. In response to the proposal, Foreign Ministry spokesperson Guo Jiakun, he's had a busy week, said, "We don't comment on a hypothetical question. China always upholds a just position on the issue of the Ukraine crisis, and we've made this very clear on multiple occasions." I couldn't agree more. China has made its position very clear, but not just. It seems clear that all of this is part of some kind of grand game between Chinese leader Xi Jinping and U.S. President Donald Trump. But what are the plays? That's unclear. Some say China is seeking to exploit the growing U.S.-Europe divide.
His guys, he uses some very, very, very weird sources. Like, what is this AL24 news? Like, really? Trust me, bro.
Amid Trump's foreign policy shifts. After all, at the Munich Security Conference recently, where the new U.S. administration clashed with European leaders, China tried presenting itself as a stable and cooperative partner, despite being...
Try to present itself. That's what they're doing for a long, long time. They're not like the United States, right? They're not trying to present themselves. That's what they've been doing for decades.
Being about as stable as a house of cards on a seesaw. Perhaps China hopes that by stepping into a European conflict, they can make the deal that will reduce or even remove European and U.S. tariffs. Some analysts even suggest that China could exploit gaps in U.S.-EU coordination on economic policies.
Some people from a random website that nobody heard before is saying something. And of course, we can't trust on that. It's so easy. It's so easy to be a China hater.
Making it easier for Beijing to navigate Western trade restrictions. Which is stupid because China isn't going to dump loads of money into EU security. China is not going to step in and fund all the things the U.S. used to fund. The
U.S. is discussing about leaving NATO. Okay? Those guys.
They're actually strategic about how they use their foreign investments. Now, I have a video I want to show you that you're going to love, but first, did you know that anytime you go online, everything you do is...
No, it doesn't work in China, so I don't really care about this. Okay.
Control paranoia. The fact that he is
content.
rapidly building new prisons for his opponents. It's a premium episode on my new website, ChinaUncensored.tv.
China is building new prisons. Where is the prison? The main thing about those guys is several things they are accusing China. United States is doing worse, way worse for a long time. But then it's okay. Somehow it's okay. I don't really understand. But if China does it, or at least does like 10% of United States is doing, is crazy bad, is insane. Oh, China is destroying the world. And we are seeing the opposite right now. As I said, the United States is discussing with Russia about Ukraine without invading Ukraine, but he's saying China will do that. So China haters, thank you. I just say thank you for the content. Thank you. Keep going.